The moment woman realizes time is no longer on her side is not when she looks older. It's when men stop looking the same way. That's the shock most men never notice. Not wrinkles, not age, but the sudden resistance where attention once flowed freely. The pause before a compliment. The glance that doesn't linger. The silence where validation used to live. And when that shift happens, it doesn't bruise her vanity, it threatens her position. Because for years, desire worked in her favor without effort. She didn't have to earn it. She didn't have to chase it. It arrived, automatically, quietly, reliably. And then one day, it doesn't. Time doesn't confront her directly. It doesn't insult her reflection or announce itself loudly. Time waits, like a predator that understands patience better than hunger. It lets her live inside yesterday's rules while slowly changing today's outcomes. And that's when panic sets in. Not fear of aging, but fear of losing leverage. Fear of becoming optional. Fear of realizing that what once felt permanent was only rented, because power that is borrowed always comes with an expiration date. And when she senses that expiration approaching, desire changes shape. It stops being playful. It stops being selective. It stops asking for permission. Desire under time pressure becomes aggressive, impulsive, and emotional. This is where men get confused. They think she's changing because she wants more pleasure, more freedom, more excitement. No, she's changing because the clock has entered the room. And when time becomes the enemy, desire doesn't soften. It doesn't fade. It doesn't accept defeat. It adapts. It sharpens. It mutates. In the beginning, desire felt effortless to her. Not earned, not negotiated. It simply existed around her, like gravity. Attention showed up without invitation. Validation arrived without effort. She didn't have to perform for it, chase it, or even think about it. It was automatic. Men noticed. Men approached. Men adjusted. And because it happened so early, so consistently, she mistook this response as something she was, not something she had. Desire wasn't a reaction anymore. It became an environment. And when something surrounds you long enough, you stop questioning why it's there. That's where the illusion forms. She starts to believe this state is permanent. That desire is a feature, not a phase. That being wanted is an identity, not a condition. She doesn't see it as borrowed power, she experiences it as earned truth. But borrowed power is dangerous precisely because it feels real while it lasts. She never had to build it, so she never learned how fragile it was. And fragility hides best inside comfort. Over time, a psychological shift locks in. Her sense of self quietly fuses with being chosen, not consciously, not arrogantly, but structurally. Desire becomes confirmation. Attention becomes reassurance. To be wanted is to exist. To be desired is to matter. And without realizing it, she begins measuring reality through reaction. How men respond becomes the mirror she checks, again and again, to confirm she's still here, still relevant, still powerful. Desire stops being something external. It becomes internal proof. This is why the loss hits so hard later. Because when desire fades, it doesn't just remove pleasure, it threatens identity. What disappears isn't attention, it's certainty. And the danger was always there, hidden in plain sight. Anything that arrives without effort can leave without warning. Anything given freely can be taken back just as quietly. What she believed was permanent was only temporary leverage. What she believed was hers was simply time being generous. And time never stays generous forever. The first crack doesn't arrive like a collapse. There's no breakdown, no tears in the mirror, no dramatic moment where she suddenly feels different. It shows up quietly, almost politely. Fewer glances linger when she enters a room. Eyes still land on her, but they move on faster. Reactions that once came instantly now arrive half a second late. Compliments still appear, but they feel thinner, rehearsed, like they're being offered out of habit rather than impulse. Nothing is gone completely, and that's what makes it unsettling. The shift is subtle enough to doubt, but consistent enough to feel. She doesn't panic right away. At first, she recalibrates. She tells herself she's imagining it, that men are distracted, that the world is busy, that nothing has changed. But something has. And deep down, she knows it. Because the feedback loop she's relied on for years is no longer as responsive. The mirror still reflects her image, but it no longer confirms her position. And that silence is louder than rejection. This isn't fear of aging. That's the lie people use to simplify it. What creeps in is far more precise. It's the fear of becoming optional, of realizing that attention, once guaranteed, now has conditions. That desire, once automatic, now requires context. She starts to feel the space where certainty used to live. And uncertainty is intolerable when your identity was built on being chosen without effort. The panic doesn't scream. It tightens. It whispers questions she never had to ask before. Am I still seen? Am I still effective? Am I still ahead of the curve? Because the real threat isn't losing beauty, it's losing leverage. Beauty can fade slowly. Leverage disappears the moment it stops working. And that's the truth that destabilizes her. A woman doesn't fear losing beauty. She fears losing leverage, because leverage is power. And power, once gone, it doesn't come back quietly. Once that leverage begins to slip, desire enters a different environment. Biology and psychology collide under pressure. Time compresses her options in ways she can feel but can't fully articulate. What once felt open-ended now feels finite. Patience, which only exists when time feels abundant, starts to erode. Urgency takes its place. Not loud urgency, not reckless at first, but a subtle acceleration in how decisions are made, how risks are weighed, how signals are interpreted. Desire no longer has the luxury of waiting for perfect conditions. It starts moving faster because standing still now feels dangerous. And when desire speeds up, it changes character. What used to be selective becomes impulsive. Standards that once felt immovable begin to bend. Not because they were wrong, but because they suddenly feel expensive. Guarded instincts soften into experimentation. Lines that once felt morally clear blur under emotional pressure. This isn't rebellion, it's compression. When time shrinks, the margin for hesitation disappears. Desire stops asking for permission and starts looking for momentum. This is where distortion sets in. Attraction begins to reorganize itself around intensity rather than stability. Calm loses its pull. Predictability feels dull. What excites her now isn't safety, it's sensation. Chaos carries energy. Emotional risk feels alive. Men who once would have been dismissed suddenly feel magnetic, not because they're better, but because they trigger something urgent, something sharp, something that cuts through the numbness of waiting. Desire under pressure doesn't seek peace, it seeks proof. And this is the dark truth most people refuse to say out loud. When time shrinks, desire stops asking, "Is this right?" and starts asking, "Will this make me feel alive?" That shift explains everything that looks confusing from the outside. The contradictions, the sudden changes, the choices that don't match her old identity. Because when desire feels threatened, it doesn't preserve the past. It adapts to survive. And survival desire is not gentle. It is emotional. It is reactive. And it will trade long-term logic for short-term intensity without hesitation. As pressure builds, something fractures inside her, not loudly, not visibly. It splits cleanly, creating two versions of the same woman. There is the public self, the composed one, the dignified one, the version that still speaks the language of standards, values, and restraint. She knows how to perform this role flawlessly because she's lived in it for years. And then there is the private self, the one no one applauds, the one driven by hunger rather than image, by craving rather than control. This version doesn't care how things look. It cares how they feel. And the distance between these two selves keeps growing. This is where contradiction becomes survival. She starts rationalizing behaviors she once criticized, not because her morals disappeared, but because they no longer serve the same function. Old standards get quietly rewritten, not erased, reframed. What she once called reckless becomes honest. What she once labeled beneath me becomes timing. What she once judged in other women suddenly feels understandable when lived from the inside. Each justification is not about pleasure, it's about alignment, about easing the tension between who she was and who she feels herself becoming. From the outside, it looks like rebellion, a break from values, a sudden shift in identity. But that interpretation is lazy. This isn't defiance, it's self-preservation. When the self built on leverage begins to weaken, the psyche scrambles to protect proof of relevance. She isn't destroying her past, she's trying to rescue her sense of power from extinction. The private self doesn't want chaos for chaos' sake. It wants confirmation that she still has effect, that she can still provoke reaction, that she can still move the world emotionally. This is why her actions feel so charged, so emotionally dense, because they carry more than desire. They carry stakes. She isn't chasing pleasure. She's chasing proof that time hasn't won yet. Proof that she still matters. Proof that she still registers. And when identity is on the line, desire stops being about enjoyment and starts being about survival. Once desire turns into a tool for survival, a paradox emerges. The harder she tries to reclaim it, the more unstable it becomes. What once flowed naturally now requires force. What once responded effortlessly now demands escalation. And every attempt to feel powerful again carries more weight than the last. Desire stops restoring balance and starts amplifying imbalance. The chase itself becomes exhausting, but stopping feels worse. Because slowing down would mean facing the possibility that the loss is real. This is where self-sabotage enters not as a conscious decision, but as a side effect. Validation gets riskier because safe validation doesn't hit hard enough anymore. Emotional highs replace consistency. Calm feels empty. Stability feels like stagnation. So she pushes further. She flirts where she shouldn't. She invests where she shouldn't. She burns bridges not out of malice, but for intensity. Because intensity still proves she can provoke reaction. And reaction is proof of existence. Each emotional spike reassures her for a moment, and then fades faster than the one before. Desire shifts from connection to consumption. It stops being something she experiences and becomes something she needs. Ego survival ties itself to reaction loops. Desire becomes a drug, not because it feels good, but because withdrawal feels unbearable. Validation turns into oxygen. Without it, she feels suffocated. With it, she feels briefly alive. But like any drug, tolerance builds. The same behaviors that once worked now require more risk, more chaos, more emotional exposure to produce the same effect. This is the brutal truth most people avoid. When desire becomes medicine, overdose is inevitable, not always dramatic. Sometimes it looks like instability, sometimes like impulsive decisions, sometimes like emotional collapse disguised as freedom. But the pattern is the same. Desire was never meant to carry the weight of identity. And when it's forced into that role, it doesn't save her, it consumes her. This is where most men get it wrong. They look at her behavior and assume the simplest explanation. They think she wants sex, or freedom, or excitement. They think she's bored, reckless, or chasing novelty for its own sake. And because men interpret desire through action, they mistake intensity for appetite. They think she's reaching for pleasure. She isn't. Pleasure is incidental. What she's reaching for is confirmation. What she wants is relevance, proof, evidence that the clock hasn't quietly disqualified her. She wants to feel that she still registers emotionally, that she can still provoke reaction, that her presence still shifts the atmosphere in a room. This is not about orgasms or rebellion. It's about beating the clock, about outrunning the creeping sense that her influence is shrinking. Sex is not the objective. Reaction is. Attention is. The mirror still responding is what matters. This is why men misunderstand their role in her life at this stage. You think you are the destination. You're not. You think she chose you because of who you are. That's only partially true. What you really are is a measurement, a reference point, a mirror she uses to see herself reflected as powerful, desired, effective. Your reaction confirms something she's afraid of losing. Your attention tells her she still counts. Your desire reassures her that time hasn't erased her leverage yet. That's why the dynamic feels confusing. She can be intense without being attached. She can crave validation without wanting commitment. She can pull you close and push you away without contradiction. Because you're not the goal. You're the instrument. You're the surface where her anxiety about time gets tested. And when the reflection fades, she doesn't blame the mirror. She replaces it. This is the line men rarely understand and almost never accept. She doesn't want you. She wants what you represent. And until you see that clearly, her behavior will always look irrational, impulsive, or cruel. In reality, it's strategic, not consciously, but biologically, psychologically. Time has entered the equation, and you are just one of the ways she measures whether she's still winning. At the end of all this, the mistake most people make is thinking time destroys desire. It doesn't. Time isn't an eraser. It's a filter. It doesn't remove desire. It strips away the illusions wrapped around it. What remains is not softer, not calmer, not more refined. What remains is the true shape of desire when it's no longer protected by abundance. When time was generous, desire could afford to be romantic. It could wait. It could be selective. It could pretend morality and patience were virtues rather than luxuries. But once the clock enters the room, desire is forced to reveal what it really is. Unpressured desire dreams. It imagines futures. It chooses carefully. It plays. It can afford fantasy because there's no threat behind it. Pressured desire doesn't dream. It reacts. It scans for proof. It makes decisions based on urgency rather than vision. This is why the same woman can feel unrecognizable over time without ever becoming someone else. Nothing new was created. The conditions changed, and under pressure, desire stops performing and starts telling the truth. This reframes everything that looked like chaos, contradiction, or self-destruction. It wasn't random. It wasn't madness. It wasn't even weakness. It was desire responding to threat, responding to scarcity, responding to the realization that leverage, once assumed permanent, was always temporary. Time didn't corrupt her desire. It exposed it. It showed what desire becomes when it's asked to carry the weight of identity, relevance, and proof all at once. And this is the final truth that ties it all together. Unpressured desire is romantic. Pressured desire is dangerous, not because it's evil, but because it's efficient. It cuts corners. It takes risks. It sacrifices tomorrow for today, when tomorrow no longer feels guaranteed. This is the version of desire people don't want to acknowledge because it's uncomfortable, sharp, and honest. So when time becomes the enemy, desire doesn't soften. It doesn't fade politely into memory. It adapts. It hardens. It stops dreaming and starts fighting. If you followed this far, the point was never to make you angry, and it was never to turn you cynical or suspicious. Anger clouds judgment. Judgment blinds perception. What this gives you instead is awareness, quiet awareness, the kind that doesn't react emotionally, but sees patterns clearly as they unfold. You're not here to hate desire, fear it, or try to dominate it. You're here to recognize it before it starts driving decisions you don't understand. This isn't about blaming women, and it's not about excusing behavior either. It's about seeing desire as a force that changes under pressure, just like anything else tied to survival. When you understand that, things stop feeling personal. You stop mistaking urgency for passion. You stop confusing intensity with connection. And most importantly, you stop putting yourself in the center of a story that was never actually about you. Awareness gives you distance, and distance gives you clarity. The man who understands this doesn't panic when desire feels chaotic. He doesn't chase reflections or try to rescue people from their own pressure. He observes. He recognizes when desire is playful and when it's fighting for relevance. He knows when he's being chosen and when he's being used as proof. That knowledge alone changes how you move, how you respond, and what you allow access to your time, attention, and energy. This isn't about control. Control is a losing game when it comes to desire. Desire resists force. It turns destructive when cornered. But clarity cuts through illusion without violence. It lets you step out of dynamics that consume rather than connect. It lets you choose where to stand instead of being pulled into momentum you didn't create. Because understanding desire isn't about control. It's about seeing clearly before it consumes everything in its path.